Militaries around the world are building larger and larger vehicles in order to gain the upper hand on the battlefield. From colossal tanks to huge aircraft transports, in today's video, I'm taking a look at the top 15 most massive military vehicles in the world. Let's begin with number 15, the Zumwalt-class destroyer. The Zumwalt-class destroyer is a class of 3 United States Navy guided missile destroyers designed as a multi-mission stealth ship with a focus on land attack. It's a multi-role class, and it was designed with the primary role of naval gunfire support and secondary roles of surface warfare and anti-aircraft warfare. This class design emerged from the DD-21 land attack destroyer program as the DDX, and it was intended to take the role of battleships in meeting congressional mandate for naval fire support. The ship is designed around its 2 advanced gun systems, turrets with 920-round magazines and unique long-range land attack projectile ammunition. Now, that ammunition procurement was canceled, rendering the guns unusable, so the Navy repurposed the ships for surface warfare. Starting in 2023, the Navy will remove the AGS from ships and replace them with the hypersonic missiles. These ships are classed as destroyers, but they're much larger than any other active destroyers or cruisers in the U.S. Navy. The vessel's distinctive appearance results from the design requirement for a low radar cross-section. This class has a wave-piercing tumble-home hull with sides that slope inwards above the waterline. The appearance has been compared to that of the historic USS Monitor and her famous antagonist, the Virginia. This class has an integrated electric propulsion system that can send electricity from its turbo generators to the electric drive motors, or even the weapons. The total ship computing environment infrastructure, automated firefighting systems, and automated piping rupture isolation as well. The class is designed to require a smaller crew and to be less expensive to operate than comparable warships. The lead ship was named for Admiral Elmo Zumwalt and carries the hull number DDG-1000. Number 14, the Lockheed Martin C-5M Super Galaxy. The C-5 Galaxy is a large military transport aircraft designed and built by Lockheed, and now maintained and upgraded by its successor, Lockheed Martin. It provides the United States Air Force with heavy intercontinental range strategic airlift capability, one that can carry outsized and oversized loads, including air-certifiable cargo. The Galaxy's got many similarities to the Lockheed C-141 Starlifter and the later Boeing C-17 Globemaster III. But the C-5 is among the largest military aircraft in the world. Its development was complicated, including significant cost overruns, and Lockheed suffered significant financial difficulties. Shortly after entering service, cracks in the wings of many aircraft were discovered, and the C-5 fleet was restricted in capability until corrective work was completed. The C-5M Super Galaxy is an upgraded version with new engines and modernized avionics designed to extend its service life to 2040 and beyond. The U.S. Air Force has operated the C-5 since 1969. In that time, the airlifter supported U.S. military operations in all major conflicts, including Vietnam, Iraq, Yugoslavia, and Afghanistan, as well as Allied support, such as Israel during the Yom Kippur War and operations in the Gulf War. The cargo hold of the C-5 is 1 foot longer than the entire length of the first powered flight by the Wright brothers at Kitty Hawk, although not everybody is a fan. For its voracious consumption of fuel and its maintenance and reliability issues, the Galaxy's air crews have nicknamed it FRED, which stands for Ridiculous Economic Disaster. Number 13, the Typhoon-class submarine. The Typhoon class, Soviet designation Project 941 Akula, was a class of nuclear-powered ballistic missile subs designed and built by the Soviet Union for the Soviet Navy. With a submerged displacement of over 48,000 tons, the Typhoons were the largest submarines ever built, able to accommodate comfortable living facilities for the crew of 160 when submerged for months on end. The source of the NATO reporting name remains unclear, although it's often claimed to be related to the use of the word typhoon by General Secretary Leonid Brezhnev of the Communist Party in a 1974 speech while describing a new type of nuclear ballistic sub, as a reaction to the United States Navy's new Ohio-class submarine. The Russian Navy canceled its Typhoon modernization program in March of 2012, stating that modernizing one Typhoon would be as expensive as building 2 new Bory-class submarines. With the announcement that Russia has eliminated the last R-39 SLBMs in September of 2012, only 1 Typhoon remained in service, the Dmitry Donskoy, which refitted with the more modern RSBM-56 Bulava for testing. She continued to serve until February of 2023, when she was decommissioned. Besides their missile armament, the Typhoon class featured 6 torpedo tubes designed to handle RPK-2 missiles or Type 53 torpedoes. A Typhoon-class submarine could stay submerged for 120 days in normal conditions, and potentially more if deemed necessary, in the case of a nuclear war, for instance. Their primary weapon systems were composed of 20 R-39 ballistic missiles, with a maximum of 10 MIRV nuclear warheads. Technically, Typhoons were able to deploy their long-range nuclear missiles while moored at their docks. The Typhoon was capable of traveling at 52 kilometers per hour when submerged. Number 12. The Zubr hovercraft. The Zubr class, Soviet designation project, is a class of Soviet-designed air cushion landing craft. The name Zubr is Russian for the European bison. This class of military hovercraft as of 2023 is the world's largest hovercraft, which stands a full load displacement of over 500 tons. This hovercraft was designed to sea-lift amphibious assault units, such as Marines and tanks, from vessels to shore, as well as to transport and plant naval mines. 10 Zubr-class hovercraft still remain in service. There are 2 vessels in the Russian Navy and 4 with the Hellenic Navy. In 2009, China placed an order for 4 of them from Ukraine as part of a deal worth $315 million. The updated versions of these vessels were built by Crimea's Fedosia Shipbuilding Company, followed by 2 advanced models of the surface warship. Now, interestingly, the purchase in 2000 of HS Cephalonia for the Hellenic Navy marked the first time a Soviet-designed naval craft had been built for a NATO member. In June of 2017, Russia announced the restarting of the production of the Zubr-class craft. Representatives from the Russian shipbuilding industry soon after responded by stating production could not possibly resume in 2018 and would only be possible by maybe 2019 or 2021, refuting the government position. Representatives cited the lack of availability and inability to mass-produce components, notably gas turbine engines and reduction gears, as the main obstacles. Number 11. T-14 Armata. The T-14 Armata is a Russian main battle tank based on the Armata Universal Combat Platform. The Russian Army initially planned to acquire 2,300 T-14s between 2015 and 2020, but by 2018 production and fiscal shortfalls had delayed this to about 2025, before Russia announced the apparent cancellation of the main production run on July 30, 2018. However, as of 2021, the Russian state-owned TASS media agency claimed that the Armata had been expected to begin serial production, with the delivery of a test batch of 100 to the 2nd Guards Motor Rifle Division, expected to begin in 2022. The tanks are planned only to be officially transferred following completion of all state tests. In December 2021, the Russian state conglomerate Rostec stated that serial production had commenced, with, quote, more than 40 Armata tanks anticipated to be delivered to Russian troops after 2023. The T-14 first publicly appeared in March of 2015 when several tanks with covered turrets were seen loaded onto train carriages in Albino, and were subsequently revealed on May 9th during the 2015 Moscow Victory Day parade. During the rehearsals, one of the tanks suddenly stopped moving, and after attempts to tow it failed, it moved under its own power after about 15 minutes. So not a great first impression to make. In November 2022, the Moscow Times and Newsweek reported that the state program under which the T-14 Armata is being developed had been halted because the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine necessitated radical changes to the planned expenditure. The same month, several videos and photos of T-14s appeared on social media, apparently training at the same grounds as Russian military personnel who were mobilized. These videos were located to a training ground in Kazan, where cadets of the Kazan Higher Tank Command School train. Number 10. The Nimitz-class aircraft carrier. The Nimitz class is a class of 10 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers in service with the United States Navy. The lead ship of the class is named after World War II United States Pacific Fleet Commander Fleet Admiral Chester W. Nimitz, who was the last living U.S. Navy officer to hold the rank. With an overall length of 1,092 feet and a full load displacement of over 100,000 long tons, the Nimitz-class ships were the largest warships built and in service until the USS Gerald R. Ford entered the fleet in 2017. Reactors drive 4 propeller shafts and can produce a maximum speed of over 30 knots and a maximum power output of 260,000 shaft horsepower. As a result of this nuclear power, the ships are capable of operating for over 20 years without refueling and are predicted to have a service life of over 50 years. They're categorized as nuclear-powered aircraft carriers and are numbered with consecutive hull numbers from CVN 68 to CVN 77. All 10 carriers were constructed by Newport News Shipbuilding Company in Virginia. The USS Nimitz, the lead ship of the class, was commissioned on May 3, 1975, and USS George H.W. Bush, the 10th and last of the class, was commissioned on January 10, 2009. Since the 1970s, the Nimitz-class carriers have participated in conflicts and operations across the world, including Operation Eagle Claw in Iran, the Gulf War, and more recently in Iraq and Afghanistan. The cost of each one was about $10 billion. Worth it? Yeah, I think so. Number 9. The Antonov An-124. The Antonov An-124 Ruslan is a large Russian strategic airlift, four-engined aircraft that was designed in the 1980s by the Antonov Design Bureau in the Ukrainian SSR, then part of the Soviet Union. The An-124 is the world's second heaviest gross weight production cargo airplane and heaviest operating cargo aircraft, behind the destroyed one-off Antonov An-225 Mriya, a greatly enlarged design based on the An-124 and the Boeing 747. The An-124, though, remains the largest military transport aircraft in service. Assembly of the first aircraft began in 1979, and the An-124, which was sometimes referred to as the An-40 in the West, performed its maiden flight on December 24, 1982. The type made its first appearance to the Western world in 1985 Paris Air Show. Various commercial operators opted to purchase the type, often acquiring refurbished ex-military airlifters or stored fuselages rather than build new aircraft. By July 2013, 26 An-24s were reportedly in commercial service, while another 10 airlifters were on order. However, in August 2014, it was reported that the planned resumption of manufacturing had been shelved due to the ongoing political tensions between Russia and Ukraine. Number 8. The CH-53K King Stallion. The Sikorsky King Stallion is a heavy-lift cargo helicopter designed and produced by Sikorsky Aircraft. It's an evolution of the long-running CH-53 series of helicopters, which have been in continuous service since 1966, and features three uprated 5,500 kilowatt engines, new composite rotor blades, and a wider aircraft cabin than its predecessors. It is the largest and heaviest helicopter in the U.S. military. Flight testing began with the maiden flight on October 27th of 2015, and in May of 2018, the first CH-53K was delivered to the Marine Corps on April 22nd, 2022. It was declared to have passed initial operational capability, and Israel has also reported ordering the type. Other potential export customers include Japan and Germany. It has over twice the lift capacity and radius action of the CH-53E, and a wider cargo hold to allow it to carry a Humvee internally. The new composite rotor blade system is also used, featuring technology similar to that of the UH-60 Blackhawk. The CH-53K is powered by the General Electric G38-1B engine, which was selected over the Pratt & Whitney Canada PW150 and a variant of the Rolls-Royce AE1107 Sea Liberty used on the V-22 Osprey. Each of the three T408 engines is rated at 5,600 kilowatts and gives it the ability to fly over 20 knots faster than its predecessor. It also manages to surpass the capability of its predecessor by carrying nearly 3% more of the external payload. And its maximum gross weight is about 88,000 pounds, much more than the CH-53E's 73,000 pounds. It's not a competition, of course, but if it was, then the CH-53K would be winning. Moving on to number 7, the Ohio-class submarine. The Ohio class of nuclear-powered submarines includes the United States Navy's 14 ballistic missile submarines and its 4 cruise missile submarines. They each displace over 18,700 tons submerged. The Ohio-class boats are the largest submarines ever built for the U.S. Navy. They are the world's third largest submarines, behind the Russian Navy's Soviet-designed 48,000-ton Typhoon class and 24,000-ton Bore class. At 20 Trident II missiles apiece, Ohio-class boats carry just as many missiles, if not more, than either the Bore class or the deactivated Typhoon. Like its predecessor, Benjamin Franklin and Lafayette-class subs, the Ohio-class SSBNs are part of the United States nuclear deterrent triad, along with the U.S. Air Force strategic bombers and intercontinental ballistic missiles. The 14 SSBNs together carry about half of the U.S. active strategic thermonuclear warheads. Although the Trident missiles have no preset targets when the submarines go on patrol, they can be given targets quickly from the United States Strategic Command based in Nebraska. The lead submarine of this class is the USS Ohio, and all the Ohio-class subs except for the USS Henry M. Jackson are named for U.S. states, which U.S. Navy tradition has previously reserved for battleships and cruisers. The Ohio class is to be gradually replaced by the Columbia class beginning in 2031. Number 6. The K-2 Black Panther. The K-2 Black Panther is a South Korean main battle tank, designed by the Agency for Defense Development and manufactured by Hyundai Rotem. The tank's design began in the late 1990s to meet the strategic requirements of the Republic of Korea's army reformed for three-dimensional, high-speed maneuver warfare based on the use of network-centric warfare. The main gun and its munitions were developed simultaneously. In the early to mid-1990s, South Korea developed internal ballistics, external ballistics, and terminal ballistics for tank guns, while licensed producing the KM-256 tank gun. They invented self-sharpening tungsten penetrators for 120mm munitions during the K1A1 program. Using acquired technology, engineers decided to increase firepower with longer gun barrels and enhanced propellants that were NATO-compatible. The Black Panther is armed with a chrome-plated CN08 120mm 55 caliber smoothbore gun developed by the ADD and the WIA, and it's capable of hitting 30-centimeter sized objects at a range of greater than a kilometer. This is complemented by a homegrown bustle-type autoloader, which allows the tank to fire up to 10 rounds per minute. The laser identifier of the autoloader recognizes the classification of pre-barcoded munitions and selects a type of munition for loading based on mission needs. The ammunition is loaded in a 16-shell magazine ready to use, and 24 rounds in the frontal hull, carrying a total of about 40 rounds for its main armament. The K2's primary anti-tank munitions are the K279 APF SDST, designated with self-sharpening technology for armored targets, and the Heat MPT, a multi-purpose chemical energy round with a proximity fuse. Secondary weapons include a 12.7mm K6 heavy machine gun and a 7.62mm coaxial machine gun. Number 5. Xi'an Y-20. The Xi'an Y-20 Kunpeng is a large military transport aircraft developed by the Xi'an Aircraft Industrial Corporation for the People's Republic of China. While the official name of the aircraft is Kunpeng, a mythical giant fish bird from the Taoist classic Zhuangzi is nicknamed Chubby Chick in the Chinese aviation industry because its fuselage is much wider than aircraft previously developed in China. But unlike a chubby chick, this aircraft certainly hasn't been booted out of the nest, never to be seen again. On February 13th of 2020, the Y-20 was part of a fleet that delivered supplies and personnel to Wuhan in an effort to mitigate what became the COVID-19 pandemic. On June 5, 2021, the PLA-AF transport aircraft fleet, including Y-20s, were observed patrolling the South China Sea, which was accused of intrusion by Malaysia. On November 28, 2021, the Y-20U aerial tanker was spotted around the southwest side of the Taiwan island, among 27 military aircraft, which was the first observation of it outside island of China. In January of 2022, two Y-20 aircraft arrived in Tonga after traveling over 10,000 kilometers from the Guangzhou Baiyun, delivering 33 tons of supplies, including food, fresh water, and water purifiers. On June 28, 2022, six Y-20s arrived in Afghanistan to deliver 105 tons of humanitarian aid in response to the June 2022 Afghanistan earthquake. So yeah, it's been used widely for humanitarian purposes, but it also wears two different hats, because on August 1st of 2022, Senior Colonel and PLA-AF spokesperson Shen Jinke told a press conference that Y-20 tanker aircraft had started combat readiness training. Number 4. The M1A2 Abrams main battle tank. The M1 Abrams is a third-generation American main battle tank designed by Chrysler Defense and named for General Creighton Abrams. Conceived for modern and armored ground warfare, and now one of the heaviest tanks in service at nearly 68 short tons, it introduced several modern technologies to the U.S. Armed Forces, including a multi-fuel turbine engine, sophisticated Cobram composite armor, a computer fire control system, separate ammunition storage in a blowout compartment, and NBC protection for crew safety. Initial models of the M1 were armed with a 105mm M68 gun, while later variants featured a license-produced Rheinmetall 120mm designated M256. The M1 Abrams were developed from the failed MBT-70 project that intended to replace the obsolete M60 tank. There are three main operational Abrams versions, the M1, the M1A1, and the M1A2, with each new iteration seeing improvements in armament, protection, and electronics. The Abrams was to be replaced in the U.S. Army service by the XM1202 mounted combat system, but since that project was canceled, the Army has opted to continue maintaining and operating the M1 series for the foreseeable future. It entered service in 1980 and serves as the main battle tank of the United States Army and formerly of the United States Marine Corps. The export version is used by the armies of Egypt, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Australia, Poland, and Iraq. The Abrams was first used in combat by the US in the Gulf War, and later both the war in Afghanistan and the Iraq War, while other countries deploying Abrams tanks have been in Iraq in the war against the Islamic State and Saudi Arabia in the Yemeni Civil War. Number 3. The Gerald R. Ford aircraft carriers. The world's biggest aircraft carrier title belongs to the U.S. Navy's Gerald R. Ford class battleships. The first carrier in this class, the USS Gerald R. Ford, was commissioned in May of 2017, and the 4 remaining announced vessels of this class are still under construction. The Gerald R. Ford, currently active in service, is 337 meters long, with a beam of 78 meters. The vessel features a total load displacement of over 100,000 tons, and its 78-meter flight deck features an electromagnetic aircraft launch system and an advanced arresting gear. It can carry over 75 aircraft and accommodate a total of 4,500 personnel. It's fueled by 2 RAM nuclear reactors and has RIM-162 Evolved Sea Sparrow missiles, airframe missiles or RAMs, and a Phalanx close-in weapons system. The United States Navy intends to eventually acquire 10 of these ships in order to replace current carriers in a one-for-one basis, starting with the lead ship of her class, the Gerald R. Ford, replacing the Enterprise, and the later Nimitz-class carriers. These new vessels have a hull similar to the Nimitz class, but they carry technology since developed with the CVN-21 program, such as that electromagnetic aircraft launch system, as well as other design features. This class of aircraft carriers is named after former U.S. President Gerald R. Ford, but it won't be the last president to be sailing the high seas. The second ship of the class, the John F. Kennedy, is scheduled to enter service by 2025. Number 2. The MiL Mi-26. The MiL Mi-26 is a Soviet/Russian helicopter transport. Operated by both military and civilian operators, it is the largest helicopter to have gone into serial production. The Mi-26S was a disaster response version hastily developed during the containment efforts of the Chernobyl nuclear accident in 1986. 30 Mi-26 were used for radiation measurements and precision drops of insulating material to cover the damaged No. 4 reactor. It was also equipped with a deactivating liquid tank and underbelly spraying apparatus. It was operated in immediate proximity to the nuclear reactor, with a filter system and protective screens mounted in the cabin to protect the crew during delivery of a construction material to the most highly contaminated areas. The developers of the Buran space vehicle program considered using Mi-26 helicopters to bundle lift components for the Buran spacecraft, but test flights with a mock-up showed this to be risky and impractical. That said, this helicopter has been used for a variety of weird, wonderful, and important applications. In October of 1999, for instance, an Mi-26 was used to transport a 25-ton block of frozen soil encasing a preserved 23,000-year-old woolly mammoth from the Siberian tundra to a lab in Katanga, Russia. Due to the weight of the load, however, the Mi-26 had to be returned to the factory afterwards to check for airframe and rotor warping caused by the potential structural overstressing. In early 2002, a civilian Mi-26 was leased to recover 2 U.S. Army MH-47E Chinook helicopters from a mountain in Afghanistan. But its successes have often been marred by tragedy. On August 19, 2002, for example, Chechen separatists hit an overloaded Mi-26 with a surface-to-air missile, causing it to crash land in a minefield, killing 127 people on board, the greatest loss of life in the history of helicopter aviation. Number 1. The Type 055 destroyer. The Type 055 destroyer is a class of stealth-guided missile destroyers being constructed for the Chinese People's Liberation Army Navy. It's got a multi-design mission. The combination of sensors and weapons suggests a main role of air defense, with anti-submarine warfare capability surpassing previous Chinese surface combatants. This type is expected to undertake the Blue Water Expeditionary missions and form the primary escort for Chinese aircraft carriers. The United States classifies these ships as cruisers, as the United States Navy defines a cruiser as a large multi-mission surface combatant with flag facilities. This suggests that the U.S. expects the Type 055 to fulfill a similar role to the USN's Ticonderoga-class cruisers. The People's Liberation Army Navy was interested in a large destroyer from as early as the late 1960s. A development program codenamed 055 initiated in 1976 and was canceled in '83 after encountering insurmountable technical obstacles from industrial underdevelopment. For example, the required gas turbine power plants could neither be produced domestically nor imported at acceptable prices. In April 2014, an image emerged of a full-scale mock-up of the Type 055 superstructure, with enclosed integrated mast for radar and other electronics. The Nanchang, the first ship of the class, began construction in 2014 at the Jingyang shipyard in Shanghai and was commissioned on January 12, 2020. In its first public appearance preceding commission was during the plan's 70th anniversary parade on April 23, 2019. When launched, Nanchang was among the largest post-Second World War ships launched in East Asia. I'll see you guys next time.